My name is Deenu Raheja. I am Executive Director at the Global Education Leadership Foundation, JA India. And it is our privilege to be joined by two eminent luminaries who are going to be sharing with you their life journeys and how inspiring that can be. We are joined by Mrs. Gauri Ishwaran, a Padma Shri awardee, founder principal of Sanskriti School and vice chair of the Global Education Leadership Foundation. We are also privileged to be joined by Vivek Kumar, who is president and CEO of Junior Achievement Asia Pacific. Vivek, a very warm welcome. This is the first time that you're coming into our office and being here with us, and such a privilege to have ma'am, who's really our guiding light and inspiring force behind TGLF and everything that we do. So Vivek, let me start with you. If you can share a little bit about your personal journey, maybe an experience or two that were turning points that have kept you motivated.
Thank you, Deenu. First, it's such a privilege to be with you, who is driving so much of impact on youth in our country, and of course with Mrs. Ishwaran, who has really put education and educating people front and center of her life. It is so inspiring to be with you. I was born in Bihar and grew up in a small town called Chhapra. I was privileged to have my parents who were both educators. And my mother, when she was married, I think she had just started her graduation, and she went on to complete her PhD. That is how much she put emphasis on education in a town which didn't have a university then. So she had to travel to another town to do it. And her resilience in pursuing education and subsequently becoming a professor herself and inspiring her students about how important education is was one of the defining moments in my life journey. As I grew up there, and then I moved on to Delhi, moved on to Ahmedabad and other places, and I found another very important factor, which was about volunteering, which was about paying attention to the community we were with, finding ways to contribute to that community. So I was volunteering for SPICMATI, Society for the Promotion of Indian Classical Music and Culture amongst Youth. And it was such an amazing experience where you bring inspiration to people from a completely unrelated area, which was arts and music, which was not expected. So as my life journey has evolved, and of course, I've gone through different experiences and reached where I have reached, and I have the opportunity and the privilege to serve. Both education as well as the importance of serving have been the two most important parts of my life.
Wonderful. That's really so. It's nice to hear that, and how neatly it ties in with the vision and philosophy of both TGLF and Jay, and I think that's where the beauty of that lies. Ma'am, turning to you.
Well, I belong to an era which was far more socially tight, brought up to be a good wife and a good mother. When fate intervened and teaching came into my life, but the defining moment was when I received my first salary as a teacher, a princely sum of 300 rupees. But it is a defining moment because it's then I realized that I have an identity of my own, not just as a mother or a wife, but me as myself, and that I was competent enough to earn something for myself. And I think that completely changed my attitude, especially when it came to teaching, because I realized the importance of empowerment for women. How we were brought up to have completely the wrong notions, not to have any self-confidence in standing up for ourselves. But I learned then that I could, and then most important, I learned that I am me. I think that was the true defining moment in my life. Thereafter, I also have to mention the support I received from my husband. in a conservative society, from a conservative home, for him to have supported me the way he did, I think I was actually blessed in that sense. Two other people played, like your parents, who played a very important role in my life, were the two priests who headed St. Michael's School in Patna, who told me that what did they say? They said, you are gifted to be a teacher, you have inherent talent, and they encouraged me. They gave me senior classes, they guided me to do my masters, they guided me to complete my B.Ed, and totally convinced me that that was my calling in life. And it defined my life thereafter, because I did become an educationist. And that's how I lived the rest of my life. And the one other influence on me were my grandparents. I still remember the day I left, I think in those days it was a 4 anna coin on the table. And my grandmother scolded me and she said, if a servant picks that coin, you are to blame, because he is needy. And you don't put temptation in front of people who need. You have to think of them. They are not thieves, they need. And that taught me empathy. To see things from the other point of view. So I think all these influences coalesced together and helped me chart my way in life.
Wonderful, and what a lovely message, madam. Absolutely. Sometimes we do not think from the other perspective at all, and it is important, even as an organization as TGELF, where values and ethics are the core of what we do, but to understand, put your feet into the other person's shoe and understand from that perspective is a very valuable lesson to be reminded of, and thank you for that. But your life and your defining moments could not have been without challenges. So let me turn to some challenges before we move to achievements and successes. Vivek, coming back to you, could you share some challenges that must definitely have come in this journey of yours? And what is it that gave you the courage, the strength to overcome, and how did you do that?
One of the most difficult moments in my life was when I was transiting from my high school, 10+2, to college days. I went through a period of defining my identity, but also my value system, and finding courage in me. That is the time that many of us go through, because we are often leaving the safety of our parents' home and everything that our parents are very comfortable with, guiding us into a space that is a lot more socially diverse, where we need to find our own footing. So I came from Bihar, and I had a gap year. I landed up in Delhi, realized life in Delhi is not that easy for gap year students. But I started with the School of Correspondence courses. And I managed to get permission from professors to go and sit in classes, and that's where I valued listening to them and learning from them, rather than taking that as my right to be in those classrooms. And as I was going through it, I had an accident where I fell off a bus and so on, and I was in cast for a couple of months. Difficult period again. But I came back from Bihar to Delhi after recovering, and I still kept going. It was not an easy period, because I had lost my identity as a top-ranking student, as someone that everyone looked up to and who was generally celebrated, because I had lost those sticks in the box. But that to me was a real divine intervention, because that's when I tried a whole range of things, because I had no fear of failure. It did not prevent me from going out and doing things. So I signed up for ICWA, and I started doing that as I finally managed to get into a college in Delhi University. I was doing my ICWA at the same time, and I started volunteering. So with the Speak Mackie, that was the year I helped organize hundreds of concerts across the country, because I was the national coordinator for for concerts then. And that's where it struck me that we can be very busy in the life where we are doing meaningful things and valuable things. But at the same time, having something that grounds us in a bit of a spirituality is very helpful. Because that's the compass that guides you, that keeps you focused on your own true north. And that was very helpful because in my final year, I managed to top the college. We managed to complete the concert successfully, managed to complete my ICWA inter, and I managed to learn many valuable lessons.
Fantastic. And not to say that you went on to Harvard and now that you are based in Singapore, but I think a fantastic lesson for our young people to take back that somewhere we get caught in success as an identity that we build around ourselves. And then the fear of failure kind of gets added and compounded. But when you're starting at the bottom, the fall isn't as much as when you're at the top of the ladder. So it's easier to fall when you're there at the bottom and to keep trying and moving on.
If I could just add one more point, you're spot on that we will be going through these phases that seem like the bottom and you can't fall off there. And that's where the role of friends is. I think it is very important to recognize that as friends, we will have our friends, we will have our family members who are also going through those phases. And for us to know that they're going through them and to be there for them is extremely important. I used to have a friend, his name was Satyamurthy. He was studying at St. Stephen's College, which was like, of course, the most celebrated.
Yes.
But I was at the School of Correspondence course.
In this shifting tech industrial world where AI is invading our lives and the geopolitics in the VUCA world, what are some of the competencies and skills you think organization like ours should be focusing on to better prepare and empower our youth?
As you rightly pointed out, the VUCA world means that we are going to be in uncertain times and uncharted territories. And to my mind, there are three things that are going to be extremely important in that. The first is never to give up. That is going to be extremely important because we are going to find ourselves in spaces that are unfamiliar. We are going to find ourselves in relationships that are unfamiliar. We are going to find ourselves in economic paradigms that are unfamiliar. And resilience is that voice inside our head that says, don't give up. You've got it. Sometimes that voice comes from inside us. Sometimes a friend, a mentor, a guide, a teacher has to tell us that dude, you got this, don't give up. To my mind, an organization like TGILF, JA India, does that extremely important, in an extremely important way. It is when we have teachers who are prepared to bring the latest to the students and mentors who are able to share things with them as well as their own journey of ups and downs. That's where the resilience begins to build because they are no longer in just a theoretical environment. They are in an environment that connects the classroom with the workplace. The second is going to be a genuine sense of curiosity. We must learn not to know everything. We must learn to know what we don't know, to understand the vastness of the space around us, the vastness of knowledge that exists in the world, and feel that humility which says, I haven't figured it all out. The world is complex, the world is vast, and there is so much to learn. And have that childlike curiosity that we never give up, that allows us and that propels us to learn new things and to be excited about it. Because as we know, AI is learning every single day. It never gets tired of learning. And I think it is that genuine sense of curiosity that keeps it amazing for us, that keeps the world amazing for us. And now is also a time where there are so many things that are evolving around the world. Some will say we are at a very difficult juncture in world history. I will argue that we are perhaps at one of the most exciting junctures in world history. there needs to be technological solutions and advancement. At the same time, there also needs to be human evolution and advancement. And I was together with you, Dinu, we were at the Company of the Year competition at Seoul in Korea. What gave me so much of hope were these youth coming from across 12 countries that sometimes have been at loggerheads with each other, where the political narratives have been difficult. Movies and popular culture has often fomented it. But these are the kids who were very keen to learn from each other. They were keen to share stories about their families, about their culture, what's same, what's different, and realizing that we are actually more similar than we are different. And that kind of understanding and that level of connectivity, I think, is going to be amazing in how we go forward. So that's the part about continuing to learn. And the third part is being human. Yet, ultimately, this is a world of humans. And this is my sense that there is going to be a lot of value created around humans. And therefore, the way JA is approaching artificial intelligence, we are not shying away from it. We are certainly embracing it. We are certainly leveraging it to help our students be more confident and better prepared. Like in the case of COYC, I know your students have the benefit of an AI-led tool that allowed them to pitch with it and learn from that in real time, which I think is fantastic. But we are also keeping it in a way that there is always a human mentor who is able to bring that connection and that understanding. So to my mind, resilience, the desire and the willingness to learn, and the third is being human and feeling human is going to be very important.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Vivek. Ma'am, how do you see VUCA world and AI and preparation of young people?
Well, I think Vivek has covered most of it, but the way I look at it is, I'm starting from the human. Humanity, like John Donne said, that no man is an island but part of a continent thereof. So human beings need interaction with other human beings. And one of the things that's alarmed me about AI is, where a human being has made a connect with only an AI, it has often led to disaster.
Yes.
So it's important that we keep the human to human connection going. And in many ways, I think even in a classroom, though AI may step in and do all the teaching, ultimately you need a human in the classroom also to make sense of what's going on. Because the young children with their young minds cannot make sense of everything. They think they can, but they actually can't. And so the human needs to guide them how to view this technology. And what are the possible impacts and how is it going to help them, but keeping in mind the component of values.
Yes.
You look at everything through the lens of values. So education and curriculum has to change. You have, as he said, you have to embrace AI. It's like when the cell phones came and everybody said, oh God, terrible, but it's come. You have to live with it.
Yeah.
So AI has come. So our duty, whether you are in education or whether you are in the ministry, it is to see how do you best leverage it for the welfare of mankind. Because after all, however fast it may move, AI is still a tool. And tools can always be managed. So you have to go in, like he said, never say die. Okay, this is what it's threatening, let me see how I will negate the threat. Go in with that, and that will come if you have the curiosity. And what he said is very true, that we have to be willing to learn.
Yes.
Tennyson, in one of his poems, Ulysses wanted to reach the horizon. So he came to this arch and he saw the end, he said, I've reached. But when he crossed the arch, he found it was still many miles. So knowledge is like that. And no human being can ever say, I know everything. It's just not possible. So if you don't know everything, then you have to constantly learn. And life is also constantly evolving. So everything around us is also constantly evolving. So you have to move with it. So it's a challenge. We just talked about challenges. So this is a challenge. But I don't see why we can't meet the challenge. With so many good minds working on it with R&D, I'm sure you can meet the challenge. And the human can never be erased.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. Very well put, ma'am, and thank you for that. Moving our conversation on, TGELF and JA, I think, is a very fine coming together amalgamation of leadership and entrepreneurship. Vivek, for you, what excites you about this entrepreneurship and leadership coming together, and how do you see this as being of value and benefit to our young people?
Very important question, Dino. Very important question. Particularly so because we are in a region, Asia Pacific, where youth unemployment is double the rate of average unemployment rate. And let that sink in. So average unemployment rate around 11%, youth unemployment about 28%. We know that in our part of the world, in fact in any part of the world, the smaller and young companies actually create majority of new jobs. And therefore the TGELF J India effort, which brings entrepreneurship so early on in the process, where in the school kids are looking at how to design a company, how to create shares, how to sell shares, how to design a product, how to plan per unit costing for products, how to go about production, how about to get manufacturing. In fact, one of the products that I'm using today, my laptop bag, is designed by a student and by a team that went to compete at the Asia Pacific finale of Company of the Year. That team from India, prepared by TGELF JA, these kids have prepared something that takes thousands of liters of fresh water to produce, which are our genes. In a world that has got less than 3% of its total water as fresh water. And instead of burning it away or throwing it in landfills, these kids have learned to turn it into something useful, a laptop bag that I'm using today. So I think this is the kind of imagination, this is the kind of creativity, and the job creator muscle that we need to build, which I think is what is being built by TGELF J India. The second part of it is, are we creating? And as we have seen, and that's where leadership comes. Leadership doesn't come to just serve oneself. Leadership comes because we want to serve others, because we want to be there for others, because we want to solve problems for others. That, to my mind, is the real definition of leadership. And based on what we have seen, so there was one team that came from Singapore there, which created something, Lumaban. What it does is, elderly who are staying alone, if they were to fall down, it will send an alert to their loved ones, and they know how. And that would make a difference between, someone just getting some injury versus it being fatal. And they didn't stop there. They created something. They went to give it to the people. They used it. They told them, "Oh, it's nice, very useful, but it is bulky." And these kids went on to create a version 2 of it, which is a lot sleeker, easy to wear.
Not so heavy.
Not so heavy, it is very, very light. They don't even feel it. So I think that is leadership, where a generation that cared for them when they were kids, now they are caring for that generation when they are older and they need help. That is leadership. So by bringing the two together, whether, by becoming job creators and by becoming leaders who are doing it to solve real problems, I think is an amazing place to be. And I really congratulate TGELF J India for taking the plunge in it, being in the schools and colleges and doing it on an everyday basis to make that possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And yes, it is an exciting place to be. Ma'am, how do you view this coming together of leadership and entrepreneurship?
So this goes back to what I said even about AI. It's a question of, entrepreneurship, they're going to start many small businesses, whatever, A, B, or C. But whatever they create, it should be based on empathy and some kind of a value. It's not just job creating to make money. It is job creating to solve a community issue. There is a lot of potential for them to make money also. For example, waste disposal. Look at what's happening in our country. So if people were to set up businesses there, they would create jobs, they would make money, and they solve a social problem. So if you look at it, if you look at our environment, there are lots of issues that need to be tackled, which could turn into successful entrepreneurial ventures. So I hope that through TGELF and our focus on LEAD, the children who go into these projects, who are innovative, allow their innovation to be guided by this. How are we serving our community? So that would be, I think, J and TGELF together can create that environment, nurture this attitude on children. So when they go on to become entrepreneurs, it won't be only to make money. They'll have a mission more than just making money. I mean, making money is good. I do not wish for them not to make. But if while making money they can benefit someone else, why not?
Why not? Absolutely. And that is a perfect way for me to put the question to you this time, ma'am, first, before I put it to Vivek. What message would you like to leave for young people who dream of changing the world and becoming change makers, making a difference?
My message to them would be a willingness to learn, ability to take risks and adapt, and not sacrifice their core value.
Absolutely. I think
it's not a convoluted message, but there it is.
No, it's not at all. I think you have very nicely summed up the values and the mission that drives us in that one, such a simple way for everyone to understand. Vivek.
It is difficult to be honest. Mrs. Ishwaran has said it absolutely right. I will pick up sort of a couple of other things that she said as well. One great point she made is the world is changing around us every single day, and are we learning along the way as well? And also the reason we are put in difficult circumstances so that it allows us to learn. And my experience has been, and maybe because I'm so close to being 50 now, and I'll be just
well, you're a young baby.
Thank you. Is if we begin to think of our life experiences as really a school, it becomes more fulfilling, and it also becomes in many ways self-improving. The moment we begin to see them as challenges that are there to harm us, to make things, some things that we can't cope with, that's where it affects our willpower to be able to deal with them. The moment we feel that these are circumstances put our way for us to learn from them and learn how to overcome them, it changes the narrative to ourselves, which is the self-narrative. And it creates the willpower in us to get through those challenges and to come out on the other end having picked up something from it. And I would say this, that we have to believe that we are children of God and then God loves us. There cannot be any child of someone who doesn't love. And therefore, if we have that as our compass, and we begin to think of the challenges that are coming our way as for God's children to learn from them, it will change the way we approach them. Hopefully, it also makes us feel the love and the love that we can share with each other. One of the things that the TGELF-J India brings is the ability for people to connect across social strata, because we create programs that can help people at the bottom of the pyramid, but also those students. One of the invaluable benefits of that is for our children to be able to understand across the pyramid, to connect with each other, to know what kind of challenges that everyone is going through. And that will help us make the world a more empathetic society, And I think being more empathetic is good for all of us. That's what the world needs right now.
Absolutely. And the way to change the world.
Very right.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ishwaran. Thank you so much, Vivek. This has been so inspiring for me and all of us here today. I'm sure the young listeners out there will be equally inspired and learn from you.
I have a question for you, Dino.
Oh, yes.
You have been an educator and a celebrated one at that. And now you
Man is a celebrated one.
Yes, but she trained you, so
Which she did.
I think I have a license to say that. And now you have dedicated so many years of your life to T-GELF and JA. Would you like to share with us any experience that gave you the energy and the courage to keep going on it? Because I know it is not easy. It takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of work for you and your team to keep doing what you do every day, often with lack of resources. Would you like to share something with us?
There are definitely, there are so many such experiences that actually keep us going. It's when we see the impact, when we see the eyes of these young children light up.
Like over here.
We see the brightness of their smiles, and when they come back to say thank you and come back again and do this with us, that is what gives us energy. And I will like to share a very, very recent example. Mrs. Ishwaran wouldn't know. I was in Bangalore last week. We had taken a group of government school children to an office, SAP, which is an MNC, and they have their facility in Bangalore. It was an exposure visit where they went around the office, they had a little tour, they were at the end of it given lunch, but more importantly, they were able to interact with the tech employees. At the end of the day, the kids were of course ecstatic, they learned, they communicated. The nice thing was that the employees were able to speak in Kannada.
Oh, so they could talk to
The
them
children
in
were
their
able to connect because it was in their own language. The volunteers were able to connect with them in their own language, and they were able to explain the different aspects of tech by relating it to cooking and to food.
And in their language.
And in their language was a very, very inspiring
I
session.
can imagine.
So at the end of it, when the kids got back, I got a little note from the teacher, and I have it on my WhatsApp. She said, Dino, thank you. For children of a government school, getting into the doors of a big tech is impossible, is like a dream come true. Today, you have opened doors towards aspiration and given my kids a goal. Thank you so much for the experience that you have given me. It was, it's these kind of feedback
Inspiring.
and notes that we get from the kids and the teachers that we say everything else is secondary, and this is why we are what and where we are, and we do what we do.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I hope one of the days, one of these kids go on to become in a big tech, and I think that will give you the biggest
It's because one
satisfaction.
of these kids, not from this school,
Yeah.
from this gang, one has just joined NVIDIA on some fantastic salary. So
Wow.
there you have your answer.
Yes.
Because the lead program is run in these schools.
Yeah.
And yesterday only I got a note, I think some 60 lakhs.
Wow.
He got a job in NVIDIA. He
In
finished his education for many others in his school.
Yes.
Isn't it? That's how
That's how it
cascades,
ripples.
isn't it?
Yes.